achieving excellence. Jason, welcome to the podcast. It is such an honor to have you here.
Hi, I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks. So, what gets you into real estate?
Pretty non-traditional route. I left school back in just early 2000s and did not have a focus. And without focus and without clarity, you take what comes in front of you. And so I moved into New York City, started working in bars and restaurants. And from there, at a moment in time, I just really said I have to make a choice because I wasn't happy with where I was. I was angry with the results I was getting. I was blaming and putting all of my emphasis on everything else around me of why I was stuck in this position. And just 2009, ended up getting hit by a car on my bike coming back from work very late at night. And it was that moment in time that I was like, listen, you continue to get bad results and you've been blaming everything else. And if you are just going to continue to do this, you can't be upset with the results you get. And so I left that, and I'm not going to say the next day was magically different, but I started to be more self-aware, more cognizant, and started to make small changes. So I started to open up. I opened up a restaurant. I opened up a brewery that I ended up selling in a bar. And then I moved to New Jersey, where I had grown up in 2011, when a massive hurricane had happened on the East Coast. And my dad had a very small construction company. And his construction company was targeted at flood zones, right, for what he had done. And his business overnight went from about 5 calls a month to about 1,000 calls a day. So my wife now, who was my girlfriend at the time, my little brother at the time, who were both working for me in the businesses we had in New York City, they came with me and we went out and helped Dad really elevate his business from those about 10, 12 jobs a year to at max, we were doing about 250 projects a year. That was a really fun learning experience. However, what we found is that everything I was doing was very task oriented. I wasn't able to really control my day because my day was being run by just running from project to project because like you do in many task projects, right, in our many service businesses, is that if you don't show up to do work, there's no revenue made. And the business was so specialized and so niche, we couldn't outsource the business without substantial risk to the company. So kept asking the question, what else potentially could be an option? And we came upon the word real estate. Well, if anybody knows in real estate, there's a million different ways that you could succeed or do real estate. You could flip homes, you could buy a house as a rental property, you could do student housing, you could do Airbnb projects, you could do tax liens. There's a million different ways to win. So we started out for what we thought we knew, right? You see the shows that are on TV that flip homes. We started doing these very intricate, very luxury flips, busy flips. And we had moderate success, but what we found is that we kept seeking a way to just get back control of our lives and our day. And here we are still running a construction business. And now we're doing these very high intensive flips that needed our energy. So we went from no time to less time. Well, kept asking the question, like there has to be something that we're missing. And we came upon a podcast, just like this, that was talking about buying apartment communities. And that was that moment where I got it because they were doing it not where they lived. They were being pushed where they would focus on a market and they would find an investment and they would put a team together and they would allow the team to run them with them managing the investment. And with the businesses I had had before, the restaurants, the breweries, I had seen how when I stepped outside and allowed the business to function instead of me being the solopreneur, I allowed it to be a business that had a team, the business performed. And so that made a lot of sense to me to see the economies of scale we could get with apartment communities. So in 2015, 16, we started to stop all of our active real estate investments, flipping homes and little single family investments, and started to buy apartment communities while we were living in New Jersey and Louisville, Kentucky. We brought about 500 units of apartments there and slowly built from there, where now we've purchased buildings in 8 states, pretty much mostly in the Southeast, a little bit in the Midwest. And we have now since even moved ourselves from New Jersey, our family, my wife and our 3 kids, down to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, just south of Nashville.
Oh, that's nice. And by doing all of this now, you have achieved your excellence. You have been running a 7-figure multifamily mastermind, and you wake up in the morning every single day at 4:32 a.m. So tell me what your day looks like from the time
Yeah,
you.
so I will say this, most days, not every day is perfect, right? There's some days your
Uh,
body needs a different part, but I focused on this because I found a lot of my changes were when I would wake up, my day would start in chaos and then it would just continue in chaos and end in chaos. You think about, working as a bartender, sometimes working off, 3, 4, sometimes 5, 6 in the morning, right? You're going home, maybe you're having a couple drinks before you're going to bed. You're basically waking up when the sun's coming up, right? Then you're getting up within a point where you're out of time and then you're rushed to every advantage. And so many people today, they may be in a circumstance that they've worked at a job, they got comfortable in a routine, they maybe hit the snooze button a few times and wake up late. They wake up late and then they're rushed. They rush in the shower, they eat something poor, they jump in their car, they get stuck in traffic. The day is just one fire after the other, just
yeah,
for them to
absolutely. We're
get
just rushing
back.
through it.
Yeah, just get back. And now they get to the end of the day and they say, you know what? I can't have this ever happen again. So they'll sit down, watch Netflix, have a beer, or just relax. And then the next day, the same thing happens, right? And I was on that path where I was just making very bad habits. And as we started to move, I had to understand that getting up early allowed me to start controlling my morning. And it also allowed me to get my time back. If to wake up and say, oh, now we have 3 little kids, to tell them, hey, you know what? Why don't you wait for an hour or so? Why go work out or go do this, right? They have their own time, right? They need us as parents. So I started to get them very early, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Have a glass of water, make coffee, meditate, work out. So by the time my kids are getting up, they're now having dad here present with them. And I also have control back because I've already focused my mind. I've had clear, conscious effort to take control of my mind and my space early on. So as the day goes, I get them off to their activities. And if things come up that are just not ideal for the day, it's not just I've started in chaos and I now continue in chaos, is I've had control and now I can have a clear, focused mind to look at that event with a clear outlook of what I could do to make that better instead of just having that another layer of chaos.
Yeah, and I think I can really resonate with that, Jason, because I myself am a big advocate of waking up early. So my day starts at around 5 o'clock. So I can relate to what you're saying, that you start getting control over your day, from meditation to yoga, whatever even I do. You do start getting control over your day, and then you have a lot of time to spend with the family. So I think this is something that is one of the key factors, like you said, to achieving excellence. Not everybody gets to believe or work towards achieving excellence. What are some of the, I would say, what are some of the reasons why people stay mediocre, why they operate at an average level?
It's comfort, and it's very hard to break comfort.
The
And
comfort zone, like,
yeah,
yeah,
and it's just a reliance on autopilot. We have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. 75% of them repeat. Most of them are
yeah,
negative, right? And if you think about your mind and just your habits, something on average, it's 40 to 85% of habits just repeat each and every day. Think about anything. Think about how, you wake up. What's the first thing you do when you wake up? Or you get in the shower, or you wash your hair first, right? You wash your hands for, like, what do you do, right? You brush your teeth. Like, how do you do it? You do the same routine, right? Well, the same thing happens with bad habits, right? You get on autopilot and you just produce the same results, and we don't think about it, right? Our thoughts happen in a way that we're 3 to 5% of our day is actually consciously being thought through, and the rest is just happening, right? Because of just the training that we've put upon ourselves. And it's hard for us to break that habit because we're not being aware of it. But then we repeat the same day and the same day and the same day, and we're frustrated because we can't seem to understand how we can't break that habit. It's the New Year's resolution effect, is that we don't start to produce and create ripples that can create a large effect. Is that we assume that today we're doing this real bad habit and tomorrow we're going to go 300% the other way, right? Oh, I haven't worked out in 6 months, but tomorrow I'm going to go work out for 3 hours, right? Well, maybe you do, but then you're so sore for the next 2 weeks that you don't go back, right? Because we
right.
forget to start taking the steps that build the momentum to get us there, right? Because we have to pivot the bad habits, but be aware of them. And it's hard for us to be disciplined, to be accountable to us, right? I can be, I could point at you and be like, you didn't show up. You said you were going to send in this report to me, or you, and like, it's very easy for me to point the finger outwards, but it's very difficult for me to point the finger inwards when I'm not getting up early, right? Or I'm not being, kind, right, in my day, or I'm not showing up to do what I said I'm going to do. I didn't send those emails. I didn't, write that blog post, or I didn't,
Be like
submit that
self-accountable.
on time at work. Correct. It's very hard for us to put the emphasis back on us. But when we understand that we control two things, we control what we do, what we give, right? And how we react to what's given. And that's pretty much the two things that you can control. You can't control what's given to you, right? But you can control how you react to it, because sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But our whole point is just we have to show up to be accountable for ourselves. And then we'll help not only level up ourselves, it will level up everyone around us and the results. And then that can help build you to a state of excellence that you can grow upon.
Yeah, and with what you're saying, in fact, it's my first book here, Success is Within, where
Yeah, I
I've
love it.
mentioned that everything is inside of us, and you first need to take a good look at yourself.
Yeah. What is the first thing to change your mind? Because many people who want the idea of success, but how do they discover that first step to choose to go into within to seek it?
Yeah, absolutely. Jason, I read I think, on one of your blogs that you had mentioned about the conveyor belt concept of life. I found it
Mhm.
very interesting and wanted you to talk about it. Like, what does it actually mean?
I was thinking about this because I have a friend and he talks about the conveyor belt of growing wealth within real estate. And I just thought about, that's how you can buy one building. It's almost like the monopoly effect. You buy one house and then you buy two houses and you buy three houses and you trade up, right? Well, the conveyor belt effect in terms of just actual life, right? Life keeps going. It's going to continue to evolve. We're on Earth. Earth is moving as we sit here, and we sit here thinking we're still right there. And when we get on this conveyor belt, it can move at certain paces. We can make it move fast, we can make it move slow, right? We can have the conveyor belt build momentum as we continue to add things on, right? But if we continue to add on and put on things that are disserving to the conveyor belt, right? That maybe we put on too much weight, or we put it too fast, right? Or we do things, it starts to break the conveyor belt. And so the method of us as our production in life continues to slow down and gets disruptive. But if we start to, enforce the conveyor belt, maybe we'll add on more wheels or more cogs right there. We make the band on it more of this because we're putting in good habits right there. Then it can support more and more good habits as we build upon in there. And then we find ourselves on an evolution to be more successful in our life. And so I just thought about the way that we can send the belt in a certain way where it can help produce good results, right? Get us to destiny, or it could retract from where it is, right? It could go in reverse, right? Or you could do things that actually disrupt the actual effect of it, right? Because you think of the motto of the belt and all kinds of part of it in production and manufacturing, right? It's supposed to assist you to increase productivity, right? And many times we're just serving to our own self and our own lives in terms of our own production, because we're breaking the path, right? We're breaking the productivity in our own selves. And that's just not really showing up to do what you said you're going to do.
And so when I was today I was speaking at one of the events, and I spoke to them about actions, that how execution is one of the biggest challenges leaders face and entrepreneurs face. We have this wonderful dreams and everything, goals, and we want to achieve them, but we lack on action. So, according to you, what is the importance of actions, and why do people procrastinate? Because that's
Uh,
important while achieving excellence.
yeah, because procrastination's easy. It's very easy to say that, well, tomorrow looks better, or once I listen to one more podcast, I'll be ready, or if I listen to one more book, I'll be ready, or once I have this much money in my bank account, I'll be ready, or fill in the blank. That's just so easy to do. But typically, if someone says I need to learn a little bit more, the question for that is, well, what's enough to learn, right? And usually we're not specific enough with what we need to get started, right? But I found that if you take action, you typically have three results, right? We can eliminate the fourth, right? The fourth is, if you take no action, you're going to get no results. So that's the point. So we know that, right? But if you take action, typically three things happen. One is, it's a completely the wrong direction, maybe a massive failure, maybe anything in that part, right? That first step. Well, okay, that happened. Now you at least know not to do that again. So
Mm.
you can eliminate that as a direction. Number two is that you take a step, right? You take some action, and it's at least on the right way, but at least it's not completely on path, but you've learned something to give you some better question to ask to start setting yourself on a better destination towards the goal you're after. Or three, you're on the right path, right? And you've learned something of how to now explore to magnify it to that next step to really propel you forward to that level of success. But you have to take action. Many times in life we wait for life, right? And then what happens? We get upset when it's a decade down and we say, what just happened? Well, what happened is that you're waiting for something to happen that really it doesn't serve the purpose to you actually starting today.
Wow. So, what are some of the elements that you would suggest to our listeners? What are some of the essential ingredients or the elements one has to work on so that they can start achieving excellence?
We have in Live 100, it's a program I talk to. We have three foundational blocks: breaking your bad habits, building your future, right, and magnifying your blocks. So break, build, and magnify. In terms of the breaking bad habits, the three principles upon that is self-awareness, right? Then owning where you are and positioning yourself for greatness. And so I think about self-awareness, right? We'll say like King Arthur at the Round Table, right? He had all these people around them that would help him, even though he was successful, right? But they had all this time of war, and now he had these people around them that came from all different parts. Some very high noblemen, some people that were clergymen, some servants, right? That were all around the table with the same emphasis to help them keep in a time of peace. And that's what we need to do in our mind. We're constantly in conflict in our mind because we have rage, we have envy, we have loathing, right? We have kindness, we have happiness, we have we have discipline, we have all these different parts that are aware in our mind, but they're not all on equal standing. And so we can be aware how we're showing up, right? We can be self-aware of like what we're doing right now. Then it puts us in a good spot to say, each time someone says something to me, I react horribly, right? Or each time, something happens in this moment, I'm triggered, and then the rest of my day blows up, right? Someone calls and says something that's not ideal, so I go on an eating binge, right? And so the rest of my day is blown up. Or, I get it and I get a result that's not perfect, and I don't get this, and it completely puts me off track because I doubt myself, right? Well, we can start being aware of this, so we can start having this as evident faction of what happens when these events happen. And it allows you to start owning where you are. So right now I'm showing up. I'm not believing in myself, right? I have doubt, right? I have hate out there for how I'm acting, how I'm showing up. I'm angry at everyone around me. And you can be aware of that. So you can say, okay, well, I want to be not here today. I want to be over there. That's where I want to end up. So what does that person do? How is that person to show up? Does that person show up with in anger, rage, hate? No, that person's kind. They're aware, right? That they're happy. And you can start owning where you are and saying, okay, I own this now. This is where I am today, but this is my starting point. So to position myself for greatness, I need to understand when these events happen to take a moment and assess how I can react. I can react in a rash fashion, like I am right now, or I could do nothing. That's also a fair response. Or I could treat it with kindness, that maybe they're not trying to put me down, or they're not trying to send me in the wrong direction. They're actually trying to give me something that may not be beneficial for me, but they're doing it at a point of kindness, even though I'm reacting with hatred because it's not exactly what I want to hear. And when you do that, it gives you the space to start making decisions that can start to impact you in a positive way instead of just having to constantly react in a negative fashion. And then you have to do almost twice as much kindness and positivity just to get back to the starting line, just to start over again.
So make it like a daily practice, basically.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
So
the good and
Jason,
bad is that each and every day you wake up, and each and every day you have to face your same mind, and your mind can either talk to you in horrible ways or good ways. And usually no one talks to us worse than our own selves,
oh yes,
but we have to
absolutely.
do
Like
it
we
each and
say, we
every
are
day.
our own worst enemies, you know. So
Correct.
our brains are wired to think more negative than we think positive about us too. So, Jason, what would be your piece of advice to our listeners who are wanting to succeed?
You're closer than you think. But succeed has to really mean something to you. It can't just be a word because you've been successful in your life. We're just constantly telling ourselves we're failures. And the goals that you seek out there, they're mile markers. And we usually think of them as the one part. When I buy this house, or when I make $1 million, or when I start this business. But that's just a starting point for the next evolution in your life. And if you can understand that the journey you're on right now, that's going to be what you remember. That's going to be what you recall. And these goals, as you go upon them, they're going to be mile markers because you're going to be so far past that goal by the time you get there that you'll be on to the next goal. The goals will continue to be there, but the journey is where all your time and focus and attention is and needs to be. So enjoy it because it's something that you are going to spend all your time on. And the goals
Wow.
will pop up if you enjoy it.
That's such a wonderful advice, Jason. Thank you so much for your time for being here on this
Thank you.
podcast. And it's been wonderful conversing with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And this one's for our listeners. This is Jason Yarusi and Payal Nanjiani wishing you loads of success in your career life. God bless.